YouTube in just a second. YouTube Live as a webinar. Hey, okay. All right. Hey there. Okay. Um, I am now live on YouTube. Okay, wonderful. Hello, everybody. How you doing? And hello, everybody on YouTube. This is the book club, Dr. Alicia's book club, How to Be an Adult in Relationships. It's the 5 keys to mindful loving. I get so distracted, boys, when you come around. I'm not the most professional person when my husband comes around. People can see you, by the way. Anyway, it is distracting because y'all don't know what's going on behind the screen, and I can't help it. Are you trying to see who all is in here?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, happy Easter, everybody. How you doing? So, everybody, hello everybody in YouTube world. How you doing? Welcome to the book club. See, not only are you making me
Okay,
laugh,
I'm gonna
but
I'm gonna leave.
silly. We had a fun weekend, didn't we, with family?
Did we?
Family came and we had a good conversation, good talk. We ate good and everything this weekend.
All right,
Okay.
bye.
All right.
Mhm.
Okay. I see you. Are you going to be in? You're going to watch? No, you ain't going to watch.
Well,
No.
I just want to say hi to everybody.
Okay. Boy says happy Easter, Easter Bunny. Okay. So let's get serious. Woo, serious. Okay, everybody in YouTube, welcome. If you want to join the webinar where I can answer your questions, I'll shout you out, all the little fun things. You can text the word LOVE to 87948, and then you can join our friends here and you get your questions answered and we can have a more intimate conversation. Yes, I have made a compilation of all of the book club videos. Some of you guys have reached out to myself and Boyce's team wanting links to all of the book clubs that we've done. We are pulling all of that information together, and I will be in tune on how you guys can get that information. All right, bye bye, sweetie. I'm trying to be professional, but I can't when my husband is around. So excuse that. Excuse me, y'all. Anyway, so we're going to continue our conversation. Um, this is David Rico. David Rico is the author of this book. He's a fellow social worker, just like myself. We did have a conversation with each other, and we talked a little bit about this book. It is the 20th anniversary edition. It's been around for a very long time. And it is something that I have learned from. I have learned a lot about healthy relationships in reading this book. Not only has it taught me some things, but it's also reaffirmed some of the things that I already understood about relationships. I really enjoy the way he talks about all of this. Um, Listen, mindfulness practices. That's our science. That is, mindfulness practices is based on African spirituality and African science. It is our science. It is, and thank God we have this wonderful therapist here. He is not African American, he is a white boy, but I love it because they've done a great job of cultivating and continuing on our science. And so the fact that we're relearning this embedded in our DNA, I really do believe that there is a universal understanding about how these practices are so important to us. I think now is more of a time for us to start digging into how we feel, start relating to each other in a way that is respectful and a way that is honors ourselves and everyone else. So this book greatly aligns with my thinking when it comes to relationships, and we'll get into some of this today. So, um, if you don't know, we have been talking about chapter six. Chapter six is a powerful chapter, I think. All the chapters are great, but I love chapter six because it talks about what to do when we get into healthy relationships and we start to be afraid, how to deal with it, how to manage it, what are some things that we need to do to deal with fears. And intimacy fears gets in the way with with mindfulness, mindful loving, which is based on the 5 keys to mindful loving, which is healthy adults in healthy relationships are able to give and receive attention, give and receive appreciation, allowance, affection, and acceptance of each other. That is what happens in healthy relationships. Of course, there's caveats to all of this. And earlier videos of this series goes into a lot of that, explains it, explores all of those things. But that is what happens. And so today we are continuing the practice portion of chapter 6 entitled Fears Rush In and Dangers Too. Okay, how do we deal with it? So last week we talked about what did we talk about last week? Oh, fear of abandonment, how to really identify if fear of abandonment is what's driving you in your interactions in relationships, or fear of engulfment, fear of being smothered. Is that the driving force for you? So last week we discussed how to identify if this is you, if some of these elements are popping up for you. Today, we're going to talk about how to deal with it. The author has using the 3 approach to dealing with fear, because one thing we realized last week was that fear of abandonment and fear of engulfment is really comes from sort of the same fear. It comes from insecurities. All of us have some insecurities, right? So some of it comes from the fear of insecurities, and it all comes from being insecure and not being comfortable with rejection. You don't want to you don't want to give in and lower your guard and really connect with someone, because you feel like if that person really sees you for who and what you are, they may not like you. They may reject you because of your insecurities. If you're insecure, you're pursuing your partner and you have to keep tabs on them and need constant reassurance because you're afraid of rejection. So insecurities and fear of rejection, which is the worst feeling in the world. If anybody's ever been rejected, it's a really terrible feeling. That's what's driving some of the issues in relationships. If fear is ruling you, today is the day where you get to figure out what to do about it. Everybody need to have something to write with and something to write on, because we got to take notes today. We got to realize how to deal with some of these fears that many of us face, to magnitude, several different types of magnitude. We will talk about this today. So before I begin, are there any questions? I just want to say hello. I see you, Lori from Baltimore. How you doing? Look at Tennessee in the house. Wait, first live in Milwaukee from Covington, Tennessee. How you doing, Juanita Nelson? How you doing? I love this. Yes, and everyone's telling boys to behave. Y'all are hilarious. Okay. So we're gonna start. Oh, okay, Shirley from Cleveland. Yeah, I'm shouting out. Shouting out the where you guys are from. So okay, so we're gonna jump in today. Oh wait, hold on. I got off of the page. I don't know how I got off this page. Wait, let me go back to Zoom. I clicked on something that should not have been clicked on. Okay, so we're going to begin. It is on page 186 of How to Be an Adult in Relationships. I'm using the paper copy, and we are going to talk about using the 3 approach to fear. What's the 3 approach? It is to admit, to allow, and to act as if. Act as if. Act as if what? Huh? That's interesting. Acting as if. Okay, so they begin here with number 1. Write this in your journals, everybody. Number 1, admit your fear, abandonment, or engulfment, or both when appropriate. So admit this. To admit your fears is to avow and disclose them to yourself and to others. This means naming your fears without blaming anyone. We're not blaming your parents. We're not blaming your exes. I have this fear because of what happened. No, just admit that it's happening for you. Remember that if you feel loved, when, okay, remember that if you feel loved when or because someone stays with you, remember that if you feel loved when or because someone stays with you, then abandonment will affect you more seriously because it will have the extra weight of taking away a required love that is uniquely meaningful to you. Admit this to yourself and your partner if it's true. Can you do that? Can you admit your fear of abandonment to yourself and to your partner? Oh, that's all of number one. It's one paragraph, admitting to yourself. And it's easy, it's nice to do that. I think some people have a really difficult time acknowledging that. They're so accustomed to blaming everybody else that they're not willing to look at themselves and to admit maybe part of the issue in this relationship is my fear of abandonment, or maybe part of the issue is stemming from my fear of being smothered. I just don't like that. It makes me feel like I'm hyperventilating. But admitting this to yourself and to your partner, number one. Okay, that takes a lot of courage. We're all going to be the lion today. We're all going to be courageous today. Yes, yes. Okay, number two, allow the fears. Don't run from them. Allow the fears, feeling them fully and not judging them by calling them bad. So if you do have fears, acknowledge, allow it to happen. So think about it, acknowledge it to yourself, admit it to your partner, and then allowing the fears to happen and feeling them completely, not judging them by calling them bad. So sometimes fear is such an uncomfortable feeling for a lot of us that we don't want to address it. It's too uncomfortable, but you really need to acknowledge it. Become intimate with your feelings, allowing yourself to feel them fully as your own. This does not mean becoming identified with any specific feeling, nor does it mean denying any. It means allowing every one of them to emerge and then to let it go after it has had its full career. This ultimately, with our own feelings, legitimizes them and us and gives us freedom. Freedom. It gives us freedom. So when you do not acknowledge your fears, you are stuck. You are, that's interesting. Huh. When you don't acknowledge how you feel, you become stuck. Does any of you guys have a trail of failed relationships? And you're walking around like, what's wrong with these men? Why are they always trying to smother me? They're always trying to pin me down. What's wrong with these men? Why are they always chasing me? Or why am I always chasing these men that don't want me? Why are these patterns that keep you stuck? You can become free when you start to connect with how you feel and start acknowledging them and allow yourself to feel it. So freedom emerges when we come in contact with the entire spectrum of our emotions. And creating a space for self-acceptance and understanding. Just that's how it is. This is how it is. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean you're bad for being human, but it just means that it's a process. So you're not suppressing and you're not judging. You're just allowing it to happen. It's a valid and essential part of yourself, your human experience. And what he's saying is that we need to validate our emotions and then also validating ourselves, your self-worth, and your own autonomy. Hmm. Very interesting. And that is what freedom means. It liberates you from the constraints. Usually, what people do when they don't feel comfortable acknowledging their fears, they suppress it. So, lies in alignment. Honoring your feelings mean honoring who and what you are. You honor yourself and honor your feelings because it is what makes you feel as a human being. I think that's interesting. I like that. It's freedom. Aha. To allow fear is to feel it all the way, to tremble, sweat, and shake as if that is what it takes. It is also enlisting the adult part of you to hold and cradle the sacred child part of you. You can fall apart while maintaining yourself. You can allow yourself to fall apart while maintaining yourself. This means allowing the fear without taking it out on someone else or letting it ransack your self esteem or drive you to an addiction. Because what an addiction does, addiction is a total cutoff. Sometimes people run to addictions because they really are afraid of how they feel and they can't take it. They don't have any place to process it. They have nothing to do. They disconnect not only from their feelings, but y'all know people with addictions. They can't connect to anybody. And really the answer to addictions is connection. Okay, so the fear is part of you. And as such, it can be granted the 5 A's. You have to give that to yourself. The 5 A's, which is Rhonda put it in here: attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing. I fear being vulnerable that my partner will judge me. Well, how do you know? Do it anyway. You have to be courageous. Ask for what you want. Because I bet, Linda, when you're vulnerable with your partner and you ask your partner not to judge you, I bet that will connect you. It'll be a way of connecting with some caveats. Hopefully, you have a partner who is who is who loves you dearly, and if you ask for somebody to say, I'm going to talk to you about what's making me afraid. I want you to listen to it. I don't want to feel like you're judging me. Could you do that for me? If you ask your partner to do that, I don't, I'm hard pressed to find somebody like, no, don't tell me how you feel. I'm going to judge you. So most people will, yes, go Rhonda. Go Linda, go Linda. Oh, that was go Rhonda, but I'm saying go Linda, try it. Try it out and see if that's a part of you. Fear is part of you, and as such should be granted the 5 A's. Then it reveals itself as having wisdom and purpose. This is how the paradox of the practice gets resolved and letting go becomes possible. Only if we tolerate the discomfort of fear can we master it. If we tolerate the discomfort of fear, that's when we master it. Interesting. So, two really fascinating things is that you have to be courageous in this world. You really do need to be courageous. You can't be um, guided by fear. You really need to understand it and allow yourself to understand that it's discomforting to have this fear. Yeah, this reminds me of where anxiety originates. I would say, let's see, I've been a licensed therapist for 22 years. I mean, I've been practicing therapy for really, understanding human behavior I've been doing that for 35 years. But in terms of being a licensed practitioner, I've been a licensed practitioner for 22 years. So I would say probably a good 80% of the people that I've worked with have anxiety. And, basically, a wonderful definition of anxiety is being afraid of how you feel. And feelings are so normal. And if you grew up in an environment, and most of us have, where children should be seen and not heard, you're not comfortable and not always encouraged to talk about how you feel about things. So sometimes it can be really kind of confusing. You know something's happening in your body, but you're not able to really identify it, and you're not really able to connect with it, and you cut yourself off from it because it's too uncomfortable. But if you have a place, and hopefully as adults, we can own some of this. We can create safe places for us to feel comfortable. Hopefully, this is the case for who is our person, Linda. Hopefully, Linda and all of us in relationships have that one person. It should be your significant other. If not, it could be a therapist or a parent or somewhere where you can really talk about how you absolutely feel and can get some of this stuff off your chest. That is so important because if you disconnect yourself from it, you will have what? What happens when you disconnect? Does anybody know? All y'all here, all of you all here today, what happens when you disconnect? Anxiety is one. What's the second thing that happens? When you disconnect from yourself, yes, trauma is good. Good, Juanita, is trauma. But there's one other thing that can happen when you disconnect from how you really feel, and it is pretty awful. Depression, addiction, yes, some of that happens. Do you feel lonely? You feel awful? Yeah, y'all on the right. I'm thinking about something. When you disconnect from your feelings, your mental health suffers. So, one thing that happens is that you have panic attacks. There's so many people who they'll be getting into the car and they'll be driving, and then all of a sudden they'll have a wave of panic attacks that happen, and they can't understand why they have panic attacks. And it comes up as anxiety. But the second thing that happens to you, low self compassion, yes, all of those things are very true, but they come from developing defense mechanisms. So this is where Freud, I don't agree with Freud on everything he said, but one place where Freud was absolutely 100% accurate was our reliance on defense mechanisms. So what are defense mechanisms? It is denial. One of them could be denial. So many people in relationships can't deal with how they feel about things. They can't deal with what's going on in their relationship. And so they bury it. And we know what happens when you suppress your emotions. You suppress how you feel, you suppress your fear, and you don't want to deal with some of this. Sometimes you can deny it. Denial is a way of blocking out things that are uncomfortable. And when you do that, you can't grow when you're denying. Your relationship is never going to evolve. Toxic things will continue to happen in your relationship if you don't deal with things. You want to deny it. You want to say, I'm just going to carry on and pretend like I didn't just see what I just saw. I'm going to carry on and pretend like that just didn't happen. Yes, Linda, you are spot on. You are not living your true self. It is suffering. You suffer when you are in denial because things happen. It's going to continue to happen. You can't live an authentic life. And nothing is more depressing. Thank you. Denial is a river. It's a river that flows through you. It's a very depressing time. You can rationalize it. There's all these different defense mechanisms. Y'all look up Freud's defense mechanisms. That is, and then start identifying where you see yourself in the defense mechanisms when you are unable to deal with what's happening with you. And I think the painful thing that happens in relationships a lot is when you cannot deal with the fear and can't deal with anger it turns into mental health problems, which in turn takes a toll on relationships because the feelings that you are not comfortable dealing with, you can project on your significant other. So, suppose you have a fear of abandonment. Suppose you have a fear that your partner is going to cheat on you and leave you, or whatever. And you haven't quite dealt with that fear. There's no evidence that your partner is really doing that, but you have this abandonment issues that you are bringing into the relationship. What you do is you project that fear onto your partner, the projection, and you're not able to identify where it's coming up for you. That's how relationships tend to crumble. Because you're not able to deal with what's happening with you. You project it on someone else with no evidence. I could see if there was some evidence of it. You don't want to be in denial, but at the same time, you don't want to deal with abandonment issues from your childhood that you never connected with, and you put that onto your partner. And it can cause a lot of problems in a relationship if you are not connected to feelings. So feelings are so important. Feelings are very important in healthy relationships because disconnecting fosters this inner conflict. And sometimes the inner conflict is so painful to deal with that you project it on someone else. So all of these are illustrations of what Freud talked about as defenses. And it can create severe mental health issues and depression and anxiety and all of those things that you guys beautifully wrote in the chat here definitely happen. So, if anything, whether it's fear or whatever emotion that's trapping you, it traps you, and you don't feel free unless you are able to express and being your authentic self. You don't want to be trapped. You don't want to avoid what's going on inside of you. So recognizing and addressing your emotions. Hey, that's my daughter. Recognizing and addressing your emotions is critical to breaking free of all of these patterns. And and the big issue with not acknowledging and addressing and being able to connect with fear is that you end up having a train of failed relationships. Anyway, how y'all doing? How's everybody? Hello, everybody in YouTube world. If you want to join our chat is real active today. I see y'all in here. The chat is real active. If you want to get your questions answered in YouTube. Hello, I'm Dr. Alicia, and we are talking about how to be an adult in relationships, the 5 keys to mindful loving. I am a therapist, and I'm also a college professor, so I teach master's students how to become therapists. So I'm there, and I am here today to go over healthy relationships. We need this in our community, and my daughter's sitting here listening to me. Look at her. She's listening to me. She needs to know about this too. Healthy self-esteem. Yes, Alexandria. And if you want to join our, if you want to join me in Zoom, text the word love, LOVE, to 87948, and then you'll be able to join the book club and say hello to me in the chat here. Okay, so we're going to move on. We're talking about fear. Number one, you need to admit that you fear abandonment or engulfment. Number two, you need to allow yourself to feel it. And we ended on only if we tolerate the discomfort of fear can we master it. How about that? Only if we tolerate it can we master it. Okay, continuing on. When we begin to feel fear or melancholy, we may wonder why and to try to rid ourselves of it. But it may be an example of synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence of a feeling state and a new transition being ushered into our consciousness. Woo! This is what happens when you face your fears. You face your fears and a whole transition happens, a synchronicity. We rid ourselves of it. And it's an example um, of a synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence of a feeling state and new transition being ushered into our consciousness. Whenever a transition happens, I always tend to dream about something. Things come to me. One time I was going through a major transition in my life. I had this vivid dream that a monster was chasing me down this hallway, and I was running from this monster. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'll be damned. Like, to myself, I was like, I just started getting really angry, and I stopped in the hallway, and I turned and I looked at the monster, and I just ran after this monster, and I started beating it up. I started like conquering the monster, and the monster, believe it or not, struck down and just ran off. And it's really interesting because that's what told me that I had what it took to get over this transition I was going through that was very scary to me. So it's really good. Pay attention to your dreams. Maybe that'll be our next book is a book about dreams. But I really do think that dreams tell you this. And it was a transition for me in my life. I started dreaming about monsters, and I'm running down the hallway chasing after the monster. As I was afraid, I stopped and was like, you know what? You got what it takes to beat this monster up. And so, yeah, it's conquering my fear. And there was a growth point in my life. So fear is a wonderful thing. Like, it's a gift. And in a way, thank you, Linda. You conquered that fear. Not only did I conquer my fear, I know all of y'all can do it too. And here's the thing, like, I was better than I thought I was. Like, I thought I was weaker than I thought. And come to find out, on the other side of that was growth. So fear is your friend. How about that? Fear is a wonderful thing. So when you start to acknowledge that fear is taking part in your life, you almost need to welcome it. You almost need to say, thank you, fear, because this is telling me that once I overcome this, I can't be stopped. This is a great transitional moment. This is a great moment where I can become better and start achieving all of my dreams and my goals if fear is coming up for you. So, fear is a good thing. How about that? We need to change our mindset. But I didn't just say it, David Rico is saying it here. He's saying, when we begin to feel fear or melancholy, we may wonder why and try to rid ourselves of it. But instead, oh no, he's saying fear is an example of a synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence of a feeling state and a new transition being ushered into our consciousness. Ah, how about that? In that sense, the disturbing feeling may be like an owl. Ooh, an owl knows everything, right? An owl always knows who. In that sense, the disturbing feeling may be like an owl that has suddenly perched in our oak tree and seems to be staying for a while. It has become, it has come, the owl has come because it noticed many pests in our garden. So things need to, and will consider them prey. The owl, which seems to us a dark presence, is thus our ally. Okay, darkness is where all creation happens. Out of darkness comes the light. Out of darkness comes the light. That's where light comes from, darkness. So if you're afraid of the dark, then you must be afraid of transitioning. You must be afraid of moving into something better because it only comes from darkness. George Lucas knew that. George Lucas, y'all watch Star Wars. It's all about the darkness. George Lucas knew that it's a necessary process in all of us. Those movies and those series, although I'm more of a Star Trek person, but the George Lucas Star Wars series is all about conquering your fears so that you can transition to be a better person. The dark side is a necessary process in all of us. It's a great allegory of the necessary process of how human beings transition into something better, which is really interesting because today is Easter Sunday. And what's risen in you is what happens when you conquer your fear. That is very fascinating because what happened to Jesus? The Christ consciousness in all of us. What happens to that on Friday? You're buried away for 3 days. Ah, like Jonah and the whale. It was in the whale swallowed Jonah for 3 days. I think that three days, of course. It's going into the darkness and being risen again better. That is what fear does. It's a very great saying on a day like today, by the way. So, yeah. So, what's risen in you is this Christ consciousness. That's how I look at it. This Christ consciousness is risen in us. I went to Catholic school, and so that's what they said on Mass. My mom would take me to Mass on Sunday, Easter Mass. It was all about Christ is risen in you. We were sang songs about it, talked about it, repetition. The Catholic Church knows all about repetition, about what's risen in you. They would say, He's risen in you. You are anew. You are wonderful. That's the things, the messages that they would give us because the priest knew, the Catholic Church knows that it's a necessary process. So if you think about it, the movies that we love, the movies that we cherish, has that same story. Have y'all noticed that movies, it's all like wonderful stories. They're all about at the beginning, you're one thing, and then you go through trials and tribulations, and then at the end of the movie, you become something different. It's a transition that you go through. So that's what happens to us. Yes, Elizabeth, you went to Catholic school, so you know, right? I'm just telling you, Holy Week is, is to be someone should study Holy Week. It is beautiful. No one does Easter like Catholics, as far as I'm concerned. So thank you, Elizabeth. Okay. All right. So let's continue on. The necessary process that he's talking about is a new transition being ushered in, and it's an owl. The owl is prey in the darkness. So that's your friend. The owl, which seems to us a dark presence, is thus actually our ally. A clutching and uninvited feeling may be just like that, an uninviting feeling. The mindful style is to let it perch and do what it does. Gradually, we notice the graces that result. Owls are skillful. To be able to see at night is a skill. To see things at night is a skill. So this is really great. Buddhist teaching. Okay, so according to Buddhist teaching, we attain satisfaction not by indulgence of desires, but by renunciation of clinging. Huh. We attain satisfaction not by indulgence of desires, but renunciation of clinging. Thus, this spiritual discipline directly targets our abandonment fears. Practice it in mindful meditation by cradling the clinging child in you without any attempt to judge, fix, or change it, and maintaining the embrace. This is not giving up on yourself. Woo! Huh. Wonder what he's talking about. So that's really interesting. I like that he's bringing up this Buddhist teaching. Satisfaction arises not from indulging in our desires, but the renunciation of clinging. Renunciation of clinging. It's a spiritual discipline, he's saying, that directly addresses our deep-seated fears of abandonment. And so when you just indulge yourself in that, that's interesting. You can release yourself the attachments that keep you bound by it. So we can practice mindful meditation and soothing our fears. You know, it's just fascinating. Whenever I'm gonna go back to the moment where I was going through a transition and I was afraid. I really did. I think that dream that I had was really fascinating because I could have denied the fearful things that I had going on inside of me, and I could have been stuck somewhere with this ideology and not really breaking through. But it was because I really did acknowledge all of the things that I was afraid of. I looked at it and you do if you're mindful of it. And I didn't judge. I tried not to judge. I tried not to fix it, but I really held on to those fears. And it was funny because that's when I started surrendering to it. And I really did begin to practice self-compassion and acceptance. So I wasn't really giving up on myself, but I was nurturing. I went through a process of nurturing myself that was really healing. And it created a space for peace. And ultimately, I was free from whatever was holding me back. And what was holding me back was just fear. It was myself. I couldn't blame anybody or anything. It was really me that was holding myself back. And it's funny because, you know, it made me stay in a situation that wasn't working for me way too long. Fears, fears let me um, accept and tolerate things that weren't working for me. So anyway, I don't know if you find some inspiration in that, but the fears are really, really interesting to come to grips with. Okay, so everybody, we are on page 188. We only got through one page. 188, and we're talking about what to do. This is what you got to do. If you acknowledge the fact that you have either a fear of abandonment or fear of engulfment. Engulfment means a fear of being smothered. Don't get too close. It comes from an insecurity, and the fear ultimately comes from a fear of rejection. Number one, you are to admit you fear abandonment or engulfment, admit it to yourself, admit it to others who are important in your life, and then allow these fears to take place. And this is what we do. Meditate on an owl. Owls can see in the dark. Owls can attack all of the critters in the garden that don't need to be there, that's tearing away at you. So meditate on an owl. Do whatever you need to do to be able to get through these fears, because in the dark, that's where light comes, and that's where growth comes. Growth, growth comes from that. All right. So we're still talking about how to connect with allow your feelings, feel them, don't be judged, don't call them bad. Feelings is what makes you human. Okay. So we're on 188. And likewise, make a plan to be more sensitive to the many ways you have of abandoning others emotionally. So really, if you're abandoning yourself emotionally, I know you're doing it to other people. Hello. The more you connect with yourself is equal to how you connect with other people. So if you're not comfortable with how you feel, you ain't gonna be comfortable with your partner coming to you about feelings. So you need to be also more sensitive to the many ways you have abandoned others emotionally. Find ways to stay with them in their hurts to maintain the embrace, especially the hurt you may have caused. I don't see enough of this. If you caused your partner to be hurt, that is really when you need to allow them to embrace the hurt. And you should be able to embrace it without feeling shame, because shame comes from insecurities. Shame comes from insecurities. You have to be able to hold yourself in a loving place while also acknowledging how you may have inflicted hurts on other people. Cradling of self or others means creating a holding environment, the optimal setting for growth to occur. Growth occurs when you have a safe place. In fact, finding a holding environment that honors and nurtures our needs is the goal of personal evolution. And if you have never had a place where you felt safe enough to talk about how you feel and what's going on with you, it causes disconnect, which I talked about a couple of minutes ago. The disconnect. You have to have a holding environment. Every single human being needs this, a holding environment where you feel safe to talk about how you feel and people hold on to that. What is that? Holding space, giving someone space. It was a trend on TikTok, and I applauded that, because we do need more language around holding space for each other. Okay. Let's move on. In fact, finding a holding environment that honors and nurtures our needs is the goal of personal evolution. Likewise, the goal of universal evolution is the whole world and its every nook and moment might become that holding environment. That would be wonderful. That would be so great if a whole world would be this way. That'd be so wonderful. Okay, so here are affirmations that may help. Here's an affirmation for you all. I let myself feel this fear. I handle it now by holding it and letting it pass. I am holding both my fear and my power in one embrace. So the fear and your power in one embrace. As I hold this way, I feel more compassion for others. May my assisting forces, angels, what is that? Buddha Hispus, etc., be with me as I face my fear, live through it, and let it go. So you have to acknowledge it, you have to live through it, and you have to let it go. May all those I love and all those I find difficult face their fear and be free of them. I will join in the loving intent of the universe. The universe cradles all of us already and always. Ah, I like the word the universe, but I feel like we should be more specific. I feel like we should be the mother. The mother cradles us. But this is a really interesting affirmation that will help you. And not only are you wishing that you can work through your own fears, but you're also setting an intention and an affirmation for everybody around you to hold their fears as well. So you're wishing well on everybody. I think that's really wonderful. Okay, so that's two. Okay, so we're going on to number three. Number three, everybody, is to act. Act as if you have no fear. What? That is as if fear could no longer stop or drive you. Act as if you have no fear. Be courageous. That's the third thing you need to do. Okay, so let's go through the first. Number one is admit you fear abandonment or engulfment or both. When appropriate, admit it to yourself and other people, allowing these fears, allow the fears, so feel them fully, not judging them by calling them bad, allowing them to happen, because that is where growth has to happen. We have an affirmation. You want me to read? I'll read the affirmation. Let me read the affirmation that David Rico is saying will help you to embrace your fear. I let myself feel this fear. I handle it by holding it and letting it pass. I am holding both my fear and my power in one embrace. As I hold this way, I feel more compassion for others. May my assisting forces, angels, and para hisfas, whatever that means, probably angels are carriers of your intention. So it must be something related to that. Be with me as I face my fear, live through it and let it go. May all those I love and all those I find difficult face their fear and be free of them. I join the loving intent of the universe. The universe cradles all of us already and always. I like that. Okay. And number three, let's do number three. Number three, act as if you have no fear. That is, as if fear could no longer stop or drive you. If you fear abandonment, risk allowing the other to go away for 1 minute more than you can stand. Clinging 1 minute less than you feel you need to. I do. This is a good practice. Just allow yourself to sit with it. Say, you know what? Usually I'm texting her 5 times a day. I'm gonna let more time go by before I text. That's how you conquer any obsession that you have. You just let yourself. Interesting. If you fear abandonment, risk allowing the other to go away for 1 minute more than you can stand. Cling 1 minute less than you feel you need to. Let it go. If you fear engulfment, allow the other to get 1 inch closer than you can stand. Test it, test it. 1 inch closer than you can stand. Stay away 1 minute less than you feel you need to. By acting in these ways, you are playing with your pain and a healing device too often neglected by those of us who take things too seriously. Each of the A's in the 3A practice encourages individual change. But as you look more deeply, you will find that each of them can also engender intimacy between you and your partner. Ask your partner to consider the following suggestions. Okay, it's time to write these down. Ask your partner to consider the following suggestions. Number one, when you admit being afraid, your partner can allow it, receiving the information openly and respectfully. That is, without blame or protest or an attempt to fix or stop you. This means active listening, to hear the gut feeling and not immediately respond with words of comfort. No one can talk the gut out of its own reality. We can only honor its reality. So that's validating the other person, not talking them out of it, not trying to tell them they're silly for thinking that, but I get it. I'm going to honor that. I hear that. Okay. Then, when you begin to act so that things change, your partner can respect your timing and not try to hurry or delay the process. A partner who can join you in these ways is genuinely ready for intimacy. So if a partner can't join you, that is problematic. You need to have a conversation with them about what's going on. That's where the relationship may not work for you. Say, this relationship is not working. I need you to join with me. I need you in this healthy relationship as adults. I need to be able to be vulnerable with you so that you can honor and respect what's going on in my gut and not call me names. You have to be able to do that. That is a partner that's ready for intimacy. And if you're with somebody that can't do that, then you got intimacy problems. So indeed, when you express the fear, your partner can hold space in which that can happen safely. Holding the space means that your partner stays with you in your feeling while showing the 5 A's generously and patiently without being offended. ah, I love this. It's going to take a lot of courage. This whole part about conquering your fears, the 3 approach, to admit, to allow, and to be courageous. He's saying act as if because he likes the A, but I feel like that takes courage because it's like we're the cowardly lion. It's back to the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is a film that can be studied for and for forever because the ironic part about the whole movie, especially with the cowardly lion, is that the lion had everything it needed. The lion was the king of the jungle. The lion was afraid of what? It was crazy. The fear was stopping the lion and it was driving his fear. He wasn't able, he was lonely in that forest. He wasn't able to become who he was. It's an irony in that. Mm. His true nature, because your true nature is to grow, is to develop, but the lion was held back. He was cowardly. His true nature was to be courageous and to have strength and to be able to lead. And I think that's what happens to us. We have the capacity to engage authentically and confidently, free from fear. And that's what freedom is. So fear may whisper tales of vulnerability. You may feel afraid of rejection, afraid of being inadequate in some way, but you have to act as if this has no more power over you. Ah. So I don't know if y'all can do that. I want to see everybody to be courageous this week and be the lion. Like it's crazy. If we had the ability of a lion, if I could be faster than everybody, have big teeth than everybody, what reason do I have to be afraid of a little tiny mouse? You know, I don't know. It makes sense to me. And we're done with this section. We're like creeping through this book, but next week, we're going to welcome closeness and we're going to welcome being alone. So that's interesting. We're going to talk about those two things. And the week after is going to talk about money. Money matters. So I really love that. I can't wait to talk about money and finances. Maybe I can get my husband to join us and talk about that because money stuff is really interesting. And I would love to hear what he has to say. So for next week, we're going to talk about becoming close and being alone. And then we're also going to talk about money matters in the following week after that. So, anyway, I thank you guys for joining me. Hello, everybody in YouTube world. If you want to join this private chat and be able to get your questions answered, if you have them, you can text the word love, LOVE, to 87948. I thank everybody here in the Zoom who did that, who text love to 87948, and you were able to join me today. Um, I am Dr. Alicia. I am a licensed therapist in the state of Illinois. I'm also a college professor, and I'm training everybody how to be adult in relationships. It is almost like I'm creating a grid of people who are healing. Healers, next generation of healers is really my passion, is to be a healer. And I'm doing that through this book, The Five Keys to Mindfulness in the Way That We Love Each Other. David Rico was spot on with this book. It confirmed a lot of the things that I always felt about relationships. He just put it in a really lovely book. And I stand by it. I stand by this book. So I think we all need to learn from this. I want to thank everybody for joining. We now know what to do when when we have fear in relationships. We now know how to identify it. We know how to name it, to label it. We know how we can use our relationships to create a place, a holding space, a space for us to grow, a space for us to grow. What do you do when you have a trail of failed relationships? You look at yourself. You don't point the finger and blame everybody else. You look at yourself and figure out how you contribute to this. And so with that, I want to say goodbye to everybody in YouTube. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Happy Easter, everybody. How you doing? Anyway, and I will